Okay, folks. Well, hey, welcome back to the Best of the Browns. Today we're talking with. I had to say that, Elizabeth. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. It's fine.
That's right. Well, look, today we have with us Elizabeth Hartman. She's graced us with her time. She's an absolutely very busy person, doing a lot of good things for a lot of folks. But she's come on today on What's Next Beyond Service, and we're going to talk a little bit about her and all the great things that she's doing, helping veterans and folks in her community. So if you know anything about Liz Hartman, and if you're on LinkedIn a lot, there's probably no way that you don't know about Liz Hartman, or that you're probably connected with her as well. So all good stuff. But she spent time in the Marine Corps. And then from there, while she was in the Marine Corps, she went to the Defense Language Institute, where she learned a little bit about Arabic, which I would imagine was a lot, because that's a high-speed school. Not anyone gets into that. So you've got to have a bit of intelligence and then an aptitude for language, obviously, to even be looked at for that. So that's kind of a big deal. So she did that. And then from there, she got her education, 2 different institutions. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the job that she had at the State Department, what she's doing now as a financial advisor for Edward Jones. And then we'll also talk about the great things and the work that she's doing with the American Legion Post there in New Bern. And then there's a few other things on the tail end. If we have time, we'll get into that as well. So welcome aboard, Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. If you could just tell us a little bit about where you're from, growing up in Ohio.
Yeah, so I am from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. It is it's not little actually at all. Compared to New Bern, not at all. It's a small town outside of Akron, Ohio. Most everyone knows Akron because of LeBron James.
Right.
That same hospital, I'm basically his sister. But I went to school in Cuyahoga Falls until I graduated, and I did 3 years at the University of Akron. When I was growing up, my goal was to go to school. I had no intention of joining the Marine Corps. So I did 3 years at the University of Akron, and then decided to change my path entirely. And here I am today.
All right. Well, what was the driving force that, what was there, an epiphany, or what was the thing that made you say, hey, the Marine Corps is what I want to do?
So when I was in college, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, I was looking around at the people around me, and I saw my future. I saw what my future was going to be if I didn't leave Ohio and if I didn't change my path. I was going to be lucky if I graduated. I was going to be lucky if I got a good job. And honestly, I saw a lot of drugs, and I saw a lot of, people having children, multiple children, and that just really wasn't the life I wanted. I really wanted to better myself, and I didn't know how other than getting out of Ohio and joining the military. But the Marine Corps, once I decided the military was the path, there was no military other than the Marine Corps.
Of course.
My current husband, he is active duty Marine Corps, and we are high school sweethearts. So when he joined the Marine Corps, that's the only branch that matters. No other branch mattered. So I walked in to the recruiting office. I don't know if I've ever told anyone this. I walked into the recruiting office, and the Marine Corps recruiter saw me, and he was like, I think you are here for the Air Force. Like, the Air Force office is down the hallway. Are you sure you don't want them? And that pissed me off so much that sold me. It was the most genius sales tactic I've ever heard. That reverse psychology worked, and I was sold.
Yeah, that's interesting. When they were telling you, oh, you need to go over here, I guess they didn't understand who they were talking to. So
they didn't.
Yeah, my lighting here is messing up. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. That tactic worked, and it was funny. Forrest became a recruiter later on, and he used that same tactic also. Once you tell someone they can't do it, they want to do it. So it definitely worked.
Yeah, it works with your kids too, and I'm sure you probably know that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that I had kind of wondered where you and Forrest had met. That was something, seeing that you guys are you're a mill spouse as well,
Yeah.
which I guess we can talk about that too. And so I always wondered, did you guys meet in the Marine Corps? or was it, at a
We
later
met in
point?
high
But
school.
no,
Yeah, we met in high school.
Yeah.
My first boyfriend was his best friend. So that's how I met him.
That's funny because that's what happened with my grandparents. When my grandma met my grandfather, she wasn't necessarily interested in him at first because, it was his friend. I guess they were out at a club, and this is, during the war, back in the Second World
Yeah.
War, right? So she met him through the guy that she was interested in, and then realized, hey, that guy is not really that nice of a guy, but Paul sure is, is my granddad.
I like this guy more. Yeah. And whatever happened, whatever works to find your love, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's funny how that stuff works, and it's funny how my lights give me a problem here. I don't know why that's doing that, but
Oh, you're fine.
anyhow, okay. Well, no, that's cool. It's good to hear the backstory, and I know Forrest has to be so proud of you as a husband. Seeing how you've grown from a Marine to all the cool things that you're doing now, and I know that you're giving him 110% support and everything that he has to do as an active duty Marine, and it's cool to see that you guys are synced in that way. That's
It
always
really is.
it's good for folks to see couples that are thriving and that are doing good things together as parents, as professionals, as a couple. So I think you guys are doing it right, and I think folks see that. So that's really
It works. It takes work, but it works if you put the work into it. It just takes a lot of work.
Absolutely. So getting back to your time in the Marine Corps. So did you know that that the Arabic or just a language, is that something that came up, or was that
Yeah.
something that you were kind of thinking, I'm going to do this in the Marine Corps? How did that come about?
I had actually taken Arabic classes during my 3 years at college at the University of Akron. When I was younger, 9/11 happened. And where I grew up, I only saw one side of the argument about the conflict in the Middle East. And I had always been very interested in international relations ever since a young age. It was kind of like, I felt drawn to it, for lack of better words. So when I went to college, I was like, I'm not going to be able to really learn about international relations if I don't have base courses in the Middle East or if I don't know Arabic. So I took a couple classes. I mean, I could count. I think I knew the colors. It wasn't anything fancy. And when the Marine Corps found out, they sent me for the ASVAB. ASVAB turned out to be okay. Interestingly enough, Forrest scored way better than me. He'll never let me live this down. He lapped me, and my best friend lapped me too. So I'm just surrounded by all these geniuses. So I did well on the ASVAB. So they sent me to the D-Lab, which is the Defense Language Aptitude Battery. And if anyone listening is considering joining the military and they're like, what is the D-Lab actually like? It's a fake language where you have to basically translate it. And that's how they figure out if you have the knack for figuring out languages. It was pretty evident that the fake language mimicked Spanish. So I did very well on that. And based on your score on the D-Lab, they group you for whether or not they think you should learn Spanish or Korean or Arabic or whatever the needs of the Marine Corps are at the time. I was blessed enough to get the language I wanted, which was Arabic. And then I went to DLI.
Wow. Now that's out here, right? That's up, nestled up in the Monterey Bay area.
In the Monterey Bay, yeah, that's in Monterey.
Yeah, now, is that with the postgraduate school there, or are they co-located? You know?
No, good question. So the Naval Postgraduate School is very close. It's within walking distance, but they are they're different posts. So you've got the DLI's an Army post, Naval Postgraduate School's down the hill.
Right. Yeah, I went, back in the day when I was a Marine, I went to the Naval Postgraduate School for a 2-week course and just fell in love with that part of the world. I mean, it's just beautiful up there. It's very different from what I was used to on the East Coast. So
yeah, it's gorgeous, but it is expensive. It's a tough place
crazy
to live.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But okay, well, so now you finish up in the Marine Corps, and then you realize,
Power off.
yeah, I'm just gonna. I don't know if you heard that, but my lights are playing tricks on me. I don't know what's going on. But so you finish up in the Marine Corps, and then you look at higher education once again,
Yeah.
and you're from Ohio, and you went to Ole Miss. There's got to be some story there, I would imagine.
Yeah. So the story is I don't like spending money. So I knew I had the GI Bill
That's a good
and I knew
story.
I needed to get the biggest bang for my buck. So I had 3 years of college from the University of Akron. And I'll be honest with you, my grades were abysmal. Like the Marine Corps, I am forever indebted to the Marine Corps because it provided me discipline that I never would have had otherwise. I mean, I was skipping classes, I just was not engaged and had terrible grades as a result. So I had 3 years of crap grades. And then I had this chunk of credits from the Defense Language Institute. And anybody who gets out of the Marine Corps, it may sound silly, but you need to get your service record because you have all these credits that could apply to college. So I started looking. I was like, I'm going to find the college that gives me the most freaking credits for what I've got. And Ole Miss told me I could finish my bachelor's degree in 1 year, which, having seen my grades, that was really impressive. And they also had a phenomenal Arabic program. So I was really looking for 2 things, bang for my buck, and I wanted to continue Arabic. I didn't want to lose it. So they were able to fit that need. The
Right.
bonus was I love football. Ole Miss is a SEC school, and I was blessed enough to be there when they whooped Bama back to back. So that was really, really cool. That's
bet.
basically my Ole Miss story.
No, that's a great story, and things like that matter. Backstories are always the things that help give credence or kind of shed light on how things happen and how you go forward in life. And
Yeah.
I like your modesty too. I mean, it's you're humble, you're modest. Yeah, my grades in high school sucked because I came from a broken family, and my mom, they were married 17 years, and she never had a job, and my dad was in the Air Force, and so boom, she's got to work and support 2 boys, and back then it wasn't as equitable maybe as it is now. So
Yeah.
we didn't have a whole lot, and so I didn't have anybody, and I could have been better on my part. I was a good athlete. I love sports. I played football. I pole vaulted track, and my focus was singular. It wasn't, oh yeah, I've got school too. I mean, I got C's, probably a couple D's, but it's because I didn't care. And like once I was out on my own, money was something that I understood quickly, and I didn't want to waste it. And I wanted to be, get the bang for the buck. And same thing, I went to a community college, and then went on from there. But my grades magically got better once I was the one responsible.
Once you're paying that bill.
Absolutely, yeah. You look at things very differently, right? And
Yep.
so yeah, I can absolutely relate with that connection there too. And then with the Marine Corps having grace, I mean that's kind of important thing
Yeah.
too.
So I think a lot of times people get out and they want to go back home because they feel like that's what they have to do. And
Right.
we're blessed in the Marine Corps that we're used to moving. So if you can find a place to go, don't hesitate to go somewhere new, especially if it could present a new door that you never would have imagined. So I tell everybody, find the cheapest place.
No, absolutely. And so that kind of, segueing into this, the whole transition thing, we have more to talk about, with
Yeah.
you and what you're doing. But, as you were looking and leaving the Marine Corps, did you feel that you had a good plan? And did you know that school was exactly what you wanted to do? Did you figure out on the fly? How did that, I know you were, much younger then, but for someone that was your age with your background in transition, what was that like for you? Was how difficult
I knew
or
I
not
had
was
to
it?
go to school because I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So I like when it came to thinking of a job, I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to land. So I knew I had to go to school. And then I remember I looked at, I think it was, I don't know if it was University of California or Cal State. I think it was Cal State San Marcos, because I was going to try to go there. And then they weren't going to give me, I remember there was a lot of digging around trying to figure out what school would really give me the biggest bang for my buck.
Right.
I knew school was the answer, but I didn't know where it was going to take me. So there was certainty, but also uncertainty at the same time. And then there was a matter of, yeah, your GI Bill covers your books and your schooling, but you still have to eat. You still got to figure out the rest of it. So
Right.
I had to figure out like how I ended up going back to Ohio during that time and working at Warjet in Talmadge, which has been bought out, just to save up more money and really prepare myself for the future.
Right. Are you a Pretenders fan, by the way?
A Pretenders fan?
Yeah, Back to Ohio.
No,
That
I'm not a
song?
Pretenders fan.
Okay.
She's too young, Scott.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
too young.
can you
That's
tell
right.
like the deer in the headlight look? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, that's funny. Yeah, I am showing my age here. That's a group from the '80s. That's one of their songs. In fact, that's probably not the name of the song, but that's a refrain in the song, "Back to Ohio."
Oh, Back to Ohio?
Yeah,
I'll look it up, Scott. I'll give you that.
yeah. You should. In fact, you'll probably like it. So if you like
I'll
'80s,
check it out.
cool. So transition wise, you said something about it seemed easy. It was a go-to, that something that you could kind of not necessarily quickly do, but something that you knew you could do, right?
It's a good bridge. Like it buys
Yeah.
you time to figure out, because you're so young when you get out. If you get out after 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years, you still don't know what you want to do. So it's a good bridge where you're bettering yourself. You got the financial means to do it. It buys you some time.
Absolutely. When I ran a nonprofit where I was bringing folks in the military who were transitioning into the renewable energy sector, I was recruiting. We had a training program that credentialed them with a credential that's North American standard, so it's Canada, U.S., Mexico, and then we would place them in the industry with like the top 3, 5 big companies, and then smaller, more regional, and even mom and pop places around the U.S. Right? And it's funny when you're talking to these guys and gals that are coming to the sessions once a week at, say, Camp Pendleton or down at the Navy base. You're just chatting with them and you're asking them, what do you think you want to do? And a lot of them are like, I just want to get out of the military. And
Yeah, that's all I know.
They've done their time, and a lot of them are like, I'm going to school, and it's like, okay, that's cool. Have you been accepted yet? Oh, well, no, I haven't even started, but I know I'm going to school, and I think that's an honorable goal, but a lot of times that it doesn't always work out, so you have to really, you got to do your work up front, and you also have to count your blessings, because anything can happen, right?
Oh yeah.
You might not get accepted, or you might have to go into a community college for whatever reason. And so, yeah, you just have to be able to, have that flexibility to, even if you don't know what you want to do, education, because of the GI Bill and other things, absolutely makes that a target environment for folks transitioning. And I'm always a big advocate of education. Education is huge. Not everyone has to get a college degree. There's other,
There's trade schools,
other paths. Absolutely. So yeah, that's good stuff. Okay. Well, so you said that you went back home, you were working a little bit, saving money for school, and you finished up your education at Ole Miss. And now, did you go directly from there to Penn State?
yeah. I mean, there was a summer break in between there where I went back to work.
Right.
So
And so how many friends did you lose from your Ohio friends when you went to Penn State?
I got so much crap for that. But again, Lord knows my grades were never getting me into Ohio State. And it truly is the most prestigious school up there. So I couldn't get into it. And I knew that. Good on everyone else who can, but I wasn't getting in. So I was like, well, let's try to get back to the Big Ten. I applied everywhere. I applied to University of Wyoming for grad school. I shotgun approach, because I didn't care where I went.
Right.
I wanted like the most money. I wanted a big scholarship because my last year of school was very good. My last year of my bachelor's was great grades. So I wanted a scholarship. I wanted to use my GI Bill. And I wanted to continue my explorations in international relations. So I applied all over the place. And again, another tip for any transitioning military, if I can squeeze this in here. So I applied to Penn State. They accepted me and they only offered me, I think it was $5,000 scholarship. So I had the GI Bill paying, but I still wanted extra money. They offered me $5,000. I applied to the University of Wyoming. They came back with a very nice scholarship offer. And so I took that offer and I emailed it to Penn State. And I was like, I want to go to Penn State, but I want you to match this. And Penn State was like, we'll do it. So anybody listening, apply everywhere and treat it like a job application or a job offer. Barter, try to get more money, because worst case, they'll say no. Best case, you'll go to Penn State, full ride scholarship. So that's how my graduate school experience went. Penn State has a phenomenal international affairs program. So that was a big draw for me. And I was blessed. A big thing that people don't know about the GI Bill is once you turn it on, you have like a certain amount of time you have to use it or you lose it. So once I finished my bachelor's, I had to continue using it or I would lose the money. So
No, that's good for folks to know, because a lot of folks probably had no idea that that's the case. And yeah, there are time limits involved. Either, you have X amount of years to use it, or like you said, once you turn it on, you've got to get through it. And that's good. That's good info. Yeah. Penn State, I've got a connection to Penn State as well. I got a couple. A guy that I grew up with and played football with, a guy named DJ Dozier. He was a tailback at Penn State, and then he went on to play pro ball, and he injured his knee. If it wasn't for that, he would have been one of the premier backs that everyone would be, still talking about now. But the one thing about him, he never changed. He was the same gracious, incredible athlete and just all around good guy, and now dad and husband.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I went back the summer before COVID, and myself, a good buddy of mine, my best friend, Mark, him and I met with DJ Dozier, and just had dinner one night just to catch up. It had been years since we'd seen each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But my other connection to Penn State is I'm not sure they still have the program now, but there was a supply and logistics program that the Marine Corps had under the business school up there at Penn State. It's a 2-week program.
Okay.
And you go there and you learn a lot of kind of the higher level logistics and supply chain stuff that's happening in the industry, and how that, kind of can be pulled in and applied to the DoD and the Marine Corps in specifics. But yeah, that was a great 2 weeks. And Joe Paterno came and surprised us. We had no idea. We were at the Penn Stater, I think was the name of the
hotel.
Yeah. And we were like in the basement there where they had like these, rooms where they would host events. So we had dinner there, and then the gentleman that was running our, cohort was like, "Hey, we have a special guest for you guys." And we just thought it was going to be some general, shows up, and the double doors open and Joe Paterno walks in. Everyone is just like, "Oh my God." He's a legend. And we did a school. He had us get in a school circle around him, and he just talked about how he loved Marines, and how his program was, he wanted to, kind of be like the Marine Corps in terms of, all the things that we hold dear, brotherhood, the discipline. And, he said he wanted to be a Marine, but he couldn't get in.
That's what they all say, Scott.
But no, so I'm stealing your story here, but
no,
yeah,
that's
so Penn
awesome,
State,
though.
is kind of near and dear to my heart. Just and my best friend went there as well, the guy Mark I talked about. So there's a lot of goodness up at Penn State. So
I love Penn State. I don't know if it's like a weird thing about being that while I was at Penn State upset the Ohio State University. So every school I've been to, I've been able to watch a very good leading school. So it was very cool to see.
Yeah. Mark, obviously he's not a Ohio State fan, The only time he's pulling for Ohio State is when they're playing somebody, out of
That he
conference.
needs them to, yep, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, so now you have your international affairs degree under your belt, and you've got your radar on, and somehow that doesn't sound right, not somehow, but
Well, that's how it
you,
felt.
you decide, or whatever the background story is, what came next with the Department of State? How did all that come about? I
Yeah.
think that's a big deal. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I applied for a big part of my master's program was you could do the dissertation or you could do an internship. And so I don't want to write and I didn't want to research. So I was like, I'll do real practical application of what I want to do. So I applied to Department of State and I got an internship at the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs. So they focus on, it's interesting, sidebar, DOD considers the Middle East something different than DOS does, and that's always annoyed me. But the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs focuses on the Middle East and North Africa. So I got an internship there, and I worked on their grant programming. So overseeing international grants and assisting on international grants that were focused in the Middle East and North Africa, be it Morocco, Algeria, Syria, all over the place. Did that, loved it because it was my love of two things, money and the Middle East. I didn't know those two things could exist in one, but they did there. So loved it. I did my schoolwork online so that I could do it full time, and I did some online classes during the summer. I didn't want to fall back by taking the internship. So I did that at the same time. And then God blessed me with a job opportunity. They offered me a contract position in the same bureau. That was during the time where federal hirings were paused. Contractors were still offered jobs. So I was hired on as a contractor in the same bureau doing the exact same thing. So I finished up my degree from distance. I made sure I could do all my schoolwork over the computer, got it all done while working full time for the Department of State. And it was awesome. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, so you mastered all this, at a distance stuff before we had to do it with the pandemic, right?
Oh yeah, I was a pro, and it was miserable for a while because I was driving from Delaware to DOS, so to Foggy Bottom. I was all over the place because my apartment was still at Penn State, but Forest was in Delaware, so there was a lot of maneuvering, but we got it done. Good teamwork, and it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's funny. So you mentioned Forrest again, and you guys have obviously spent time apart over the years, right? Because of education and, probably because your time in Israel, I would imagine that was. So how did you guys work all that out?
Never thought this would come up. Shout out Forrest if you're watching. Forrest and I actually split up. We quit speaking. We broke up when I was in college. I broke up with him. And then we didn't talk for 6.5 years, never spoke.
Oh.
And then we found each other. I was at Penn State and we started talking again. And it was like time never passed. The conversations picked up right where they left off. And from that moment forward, I'll get really cheesy about it, but there was no reason that the stars ever should have aligned to bring us back together, but they did. So we made sure we never let that opportunity fall between our fingers again. And we got back together and we made it work. Distance was easy when we knew that it was that meant to be. So yeah.
All right. No, absolutely. I'm you can't see, but I'm getting chill bumps just listening to what you're saying because I believe that God works the way he works, right? It's mysterious sometimes.
Very mysterious way.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a while for things maybe to be revealed as to maybe why things went the way they did. But there's always a purpose somehow, even if you're having a hard time with it. There's a reason why things happen the way they do, and that's really cool. That's a good story. And you're right. When you know it, you know it. And it's not always an easy walk. You have to, in marriage, sometimes you're 110% and the other person's on, maybe 12. but you go back and forth with that. And,
Yeah, no,
what's that? Oh,
I think her internet cut out. So she's
I
probably
think
trying to get back on again.
Forrest may have turned it off. No, that's too funny. Yeah, she was saying that initially when we were, talking just prior to recording the show that we're doing now, she was having issues with her camera. So, it just probably something similar to that. So like you said, she'll probably come back on here.
Yeah, it's been going really well. So,
yeah.
So she probably just, once she gets back on, it'll be smooth. And by the way, hello, Greg and Chris. Good to see you both. Yeah, what an interesting conversation. What a great lady.
Yeah, she is. It's like we've been connected. We connected probably right as just before the pandemic, I guess. And then, once everything shut down, everybody, was doing a lot more social media than they are now. I think folks are weaning off of it a bit again because, life's kind of getting back at pace or something closer.
Yeah.
We're not back to normal, but folks aren't as maybe on social media platforms as they were. And we really connected well back in that time. And we've developed a friendship here online. And, she was one of the first folks that I wanted to make sure that when I had the opportunity to do what I'm doing with you now, she was in the top, echelon of folks I wanted to bring in and talk to and share, her story as a Marine, her
can
background.
you guys hear me?
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Liz, we can hear
I'm
you.
here. I don't know where my face went. I'm working on it, guys. I promise.
Oh, that's
No
okay.
worries. Scott, what I'm enjoying too is that I can imagine anybody listening to Liz's story is there just how she's simply sharing her story. The steps, each one of her steps really is a great nugget for others to navigate their journey. So that's, I really appreciate and that she's very thoughtful in why she's doing what she's doing. Like, it's like, okay, the money part, this is what I, what I value, and how I navigated that. And then this is how it worked out. And then just all the tips on, just even the competition thing. Well, This college offered me this amount of a scholarship.
Yeah, that actually was really cool because I've, you hear about that, right, with the interview process with, different jobs and whatnot. And there's a technique and approach and how you maneuver that space. And I don't think I recall anyone ever telling me that they did that for grad school. That's really cool. I probably never would have thought about that, but that was, absolutely. And Sarah, that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that this platform, what's next, was going to offer up to people the ability to hear folks who have made the transition, who are successfully making their way through life and whatever they're doing, whether it's education and a job or whether it's a trade school, or even if they're still trying to figure things out, being able to share, your story and the things that you experienced that weren't so good, or the things that, hey, wow, I discovered that if you do X, Y, and Z, a lot of good things happen. So yeah, that's
what
a big part of what we're doing here.
I love too, like everything that you're saying, like how, she's navigating all that, everything that you had mentioned. And then, Liz, I have to tell you, I really appreciate your spirit too. Your, I think the courage of how you've navigated just so confidently that you just come across like your own person. It's like, okay, not about what everybody else is doing, but what is going to work with me? What do I value? And not afraid to do that. Like really seeing the big picture of what means a lot to you. And even the point too, that the foresight that you had as a young woman to say, you know what, yes, I hear this is the side We've all heard 9/11 and, all the emotions that go on the American side, but just as a young person, really interested in knowing the Middle Eastern side. And then how you navigated your fascination with international relations. And so what I'm getting just from you showing up is just your foresight and your big picture thinking, and just not being afraid to navigate just who you truly are, not what the expectation
you
is.
say big picture, because we always joke at work, I am big picture. And if it were not for my incredible team at work, a lot of little picture things would not happen. So yes, I'm very big picture.
And vice versa, right? Vice versa.
Exactly. I can see the show, but there's a lot of, I don't know if I can always make the show happen, but yes, very big picture over here.
Hey, Liz,
yeah,
while you're back over here. Hey, Liz, this
You
is
know?
Greg, and I'm kind of jumping in here because, Sarah was telling me what a great show this was that you're putting on, Scott. And then Liz comes on. I come in, a 29-year retired Air Force guy, and you guys start coming off on the top rope on me. So, I'm a little suspect, afraid I'm maybe going to open myself up to more ridicule here, but, that's pretty tough. I come in here and hear this, and I'm just playing, by the way, maybe a bad delivery. But yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys come in. And I thought it was hilarious. You literally made me spit my drink out when you said you were getting you were kind of shuffled on down the road to the Air Force. So I appreciate that comment. That had me cracking up. And so this show and this little podcast about everything Sarah said it was going to be. So awesome stuff. I'm glad I was invited. So cool stuff. Keep it coming.
I'm glad to have you on board.
Back, Scott.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We always, whether we're active duty, retired, out of service, we're always going to jab each other. We come together when it matters, but in between, we're always doing that trash talking, so to speak, I guess, right?
Yeah, that was a straight elbow off the top rope, and didn't even know it was coming. So that was good. Didn't know I was here, so that's fantastic. So Liz, I'll give you 3 points for that one. We'll have that was a 3-pointer. That was solid.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome stuff there. I don't know what you can do with those points, but good stuff.
That's 3 out of 3, by the way. That's the
scale.
That's
right. That's right.
Should be 3 points is max.
We'll just go on a 3-point scale. We have Marines here. We'll color in crayons later.
Hey, no, that's true. Thanks for thinking about us like that. That's good.
Yeah, no problem. I'm here for you.
Well, Liz, obviously you're back. We can see you now again. So I was joking around while you were gone. I said that Forrest must have come and pulled the plug.
Oh my God, I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, they're probably thinking Forrest pulled me offline. But yeah. I think I tell Forrest once a month. I'm like, I don't know how we're together. It's a true blessing. But anyways, enough about Forrest.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's funny, but you talk about having, Sarah, and you were, chatting, and she talked about the, that you have vision, I guess is probably the way to say it. Some people have vision, and they're good at, connecting things and not necessarily drilling down to the weeds. That's my wife and I are that same way. It frustrates her that she could be on doing whatever she's doing and spend a lot of time on it, and then will ask me a question, and I'll listen, and then I'll say, whatever I say, and she's like, "What? How can you say that? You didn't even take time to think about what you're saying."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, some things, I don't feel like I, need to spend 2 hours.
I don't need to get deep into the granular. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think, people's minds just work differently. I was always very good at the same thing. If I needed to get into the detail, absolutely, I could. I don't like drilling down.
Exactly.
I like having my head up on the swivel and trying to see where things are, where I am in that timeline, what needs to come together, backwards, forwards, right, left, and she's an engineer, so I think that's probably why she's more.
Oh, absolutely. That's why she's more down in the weeds.
Yeah.
An engineer mind.
That's cool. So I'm glad that Forrest didn't pull the plug there, and we got you back. So, okay. So now we were talking about, I think before we shifted over to the relationship dynamic with being, in different areas. You were battling the DC traffic, all that stuff. Then you're over in Israel. How long were you actually there?
So I think I was there for a month in June, and then I flew back, I think, for a month and then I was back in DC for I think a month. And then I flew out and I was there for what I think was like 3 months. And then I flew back for a weekend. And then I flew back out to Israel, and I stayed in Israel until I flew back December 2018. So I think I was there total like five months.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a place, I've, as a Marine and even, post Marine Corps, I've traveled a lot. And that's one place in the world that I haven't gone yet. Partly was when I had the opportunity, security wasn't really the best. It's always an issue there. I think most folks probably understand that.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's a place that I want to go to. It's one of those bucket list, things for me. I was fortunate. I went with my brother-in-law. My wife's, she's got 5 brothers and sisters. He retired as a Army lieutenant colonel, and we're like brothers. We're a lot alike. And he invited me to go to the 75th. What's it called? It was the D-Day 75th what's the word I'm looking for? Anyhow, it was the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. And so we spent 9 days there, and that was awesome. That's a whole other story. But as far as being in Israel, when you were there, what were some of the things that you thought, what's the right way to say this? Were you concerned about security, or were you were you able to kind of go out and do what you wanted, or how did all that work with you?
I will preface this by saying I was in Tel Aviv. So Tel Aviv people, I had heard people previously say Tel Aviv was a bubble. It's a bubble. Like it is truly a bubble. You step out of Tel Aviv and it's a different Israel. Tel Aviv, I felt very secure. I stayed out late. I was out early on my own. I felt very secure, but then again, I've always sort of felt secure. In Jerusalem, I would say it might have been a little different. I know a lot of people feel a little more on edge, especially when they're in Old City. There's a little more security risks, but personally, I never felt any security threats.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So now you're transitioning again. You've had a lot of transitions, right? We all do our things with transition. You finish up with the State Department, and then you have a decision to make. What was happening at that point?
Yeah, so I loved the State Department. My job I was doing, I could not have been happier. I loved what I was doing. In particular, I loved what I was doing in Israel. I loved the programming I was working on. But when you want to start a family, I'm sure you guys understand, like you have to literally be in the same geographic area as the person that you want to start a family with. And that was not happening. We're in different continents. It wasn't happening. The Marine Corps is not going to take you to Israel. Department is not going to take you to Delaware. It's not going to take you to North Carolina. So we put our brains together and tried to figure out, like, how can we make this work? Which, as a mil spouse, if I put that hat on, I think a lot of times military spouses feel they can't have their own career. They can't have their own identity. And it was very, very important for me that I wanted to start a family, but I also wanted to make sure I didn't lose myself. So I did a lot of research. How can I incorporate the things I love into a job that would give me flexibility? And it was tough because if you don't know Eastern North Carolina, there's not much over here. There's not a lot of industry. I was very fortunate that I found Edward Jones. I saw that they were hiring. I applied through the hiring process, and the beauty of Edward Jones, why they stood out to me as opposed to other, big firms. Edward Jones let me create my own business in my backyard. So I was able to do what I wanted, but I didn't have to be far away. So once I found the perfect answer, it was an easy jump. But that was sort of like the background thought in my mind. I didn't myself. I wanted to make sure I still had a career I could take a lot of pride in, but I wanted to be close to Forest.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've lost audio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little delay there. Okay, cool. Well, what you said there is, I think, there's a lot of value in what you just said, because there are a lot of spouses, and most are women, right, that
Yes.
are following their husband's career. And
Yes.
because of the fact that, at least in the Marine Corps, and things change, but about every 3 years, you're looking to go someplace
Yep.
else. Now you might get lucky and have a reassignment in the local, geographical area, like say you're at Camp Pendleton, a job opens up at Miramar. It's, about a 50-hour drive, 50-mile drive, but it's doable, right? So
Yeah,
you're lucky.
still doable.
But if you're going, coast to coast or anywhere in between or overseas, the spouse is having to put a lot of time into packing things up, receiving things on the other side, making things operate with the kids well, getting them to school and all the stuff that, moms and, dads do. But to be able to do all of that and balance a full-time career to where you're satisfying those things in your life that are important to you, because you spent time, you got your education, you want to do the things that you became educated for, or you have professional aspirations there. I see so many folks that are frustrated because employers are, maybe not as likely to bring on somebody who is a mill spouse because they know they're going to be leaving
Gone in 3
in
years.
a couple
Yeah.
of years. Yeah. And, so, or, there could be other reasons too, but that's a big deal. Can you share anything more about how you've been able to, balance your career goals
I
while
would
being
say,
married to Forrest?
yeah, a lot of this is just me shouting out Forrest, because we both find a lot of, I have always believed that unless you personally feel fulfilled, you'll never feel fulfilled in your relationship. So we both have very specific goals we're chasing, and a career was really important to me. And by focusing on my career, I was willing to make time for anything else, if that makes sense. Knowing that I had this, time becomes available when you want it to be available. If you want to make something happen, it's very easy to find the time to do it. And so I wanted it all. Like, I wanted to be in the same geographic location, but I wanted a career. So the time, I don't know how to articulate this well. I'm sorry, but like, I made the time.
Right.
So that's why when it came to juggling, it sucks sometimes, Scott. There's a lot of times I'm
Sure.
overwhelmed, but I try to find time for family, find time for work.
Yeah.
It's
I think
visionary, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like that. Oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, I was going to say something you said there. I think is key, and is relationship driven. Is that your spouse is open to that? Whether it's the
Oh, yeah.
gal who is in the military and the husband has a desire to have a professional career and they're following her. Being open to that and having that understanding, because if that's not the case, you're doing this, and
Oh, yeah.
that
And
causes a lot of extra stuff in a marriage that is hard to deal with if you're not on the
a
same
lot of
plane.
communication. I see a lot of like junior Marines, junior couples. They don't talk. Like, you have to talk. You have to have the really tough conversations.
Right.
For me, it was very important that I didn't lose my identity. I didn't want to be a mill spouse. I wanted to be a lot of things. I wanted to be Liz. I also wanted to be a mill spouse, but I wanted to be Liz. So having those tough conversations has really allowed us to blossom in our individual areas.
Right.
But yeah, when it comes to juggling things, I got to tell you, by the end of the year, I don't know how I do it. I basically want to sleep all day. But in the beginning of the year, I try to make more time for family, because I know the end of the year tends to be a little busier. But yeah,
Right.
we make it work.
Yeah, and I see that in observing you from a distance on LinkedIn here, how truly active you are in a lot of different areas. That's why on my 15-second teaser to promote you on the program here, first thing I said is we're going to try to keep up with Elizabeth Hartman because you're a dynamo, and and again, hats off to to Forrest for, being with you on this journey and supporting you, because, spouses have to support each other. You figure out ways to do that. And that's just, that's marriage in general too. It's, finding ways
I couldn't do it
to
without
make it
him.
work. Yeah,
If
absolutely.
there are a lot of late nights on my end, and I could not do it without his support.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good, and I think it's good that people can hear us talking about that too, right? Because it shows that, hey, there are people that are going through similar things. Maybe not the exact thing that I'm going through, but they talk, they work it out. They deal with the issues and they decide what's important to them, and they go forth and do good things. So obviously, you guys are making all that stuff happen. So now we're right at about 54 minutes ish. So just for time's sake, I want to speed ahead to what you're doing now with the Post, your American Legion Post. That looks like it brings such value, not only to you, but to all the folks that you're working with. I always love when you post about that, and talk about shared experiences. Tell us a little bit about that. What got you into it, what you love about it, whatever you want to talk about with the American Legion, please do that.
Shocker. I'm an extrovert. So I moved to a new state where I knew no one, and I was like, well, crap, I got to meet people. And also I had to meet people because of my job. So I was like, if I'm going to meet people, I'm going to meet people I want to talk to. I saw a lot of people in my field they just met anyone. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to talk to veterans. I like talking to veterans. I really like talking to Vietnam and Korean war vets. Those typically are my favorite vets to talk to. And American Legion. It stood out. I was approached by one of my members, and he said, you need to join the Post. So I joined the Post, went to my first meeting. I was the youngest person there by, I swear, 40 years. And they were so welcoming. It wasn't a smoke-filled bar. It wasn't smoky at all. The bar is actually only open for 2 hours. So it was not anything I'd ever seen previously. And they were like, join. So I joined. And then they were like, well, do something. And they gave me rope. They let me go do what I wanted to do and chase my passions. I was able in my first year to do that march for the 22, which we're about to roll out for this year.
Right.
Yeah, so I started as just a regular member trying to learn how American Legion really worked. And then I was elected to the vice commander position, which is like the vice president. And then in May, June, whatever month, I was elected commander. So that's like the president position, which is, if I'm being true and pulling back the curtain, we do nothing. We just inspire the members to go do everything. And it's been an absolute blessing in just these short 2 months to be commander, because our post does so much cool stuff. We're constantly in the community. I'm incredibly biased, but we are the best post in North Carolina. We've got, can I talk about our events to give people an idea?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got, going back to last year, we did a 22 kilometer, so about 14, 15 miles hike that Al
That was in
Bellamy
the
was
rain
part of.
too, right?
What?
Wasn't that in the rain?
Oh,
Didn't that
yeah,
wind up
the
being in the
rain.
rain? I recall that, yeah.
Yeah, it sucked. Like it was miserable. I got home that night and I like felt a bump on my back. And I asked Forrest, I was like, what is this bump? And he was like, Liz, your back is covered in welts. So
Oh, wow.
I couldn't feel him on the hike. But that was because we were with people. So we did this hike. All the money raised was going to go to like suicide awareness. I put that in quotes because what does it actually mean? People take their lives for a lot of reasons, but I mean, it might be naive to say, but I think a lot of people could be saved just from a conversation. So we wanted to establish conversations. So all of our money goes to free meals. So I posted about it on then we did a big free meal for a bunch of veterans and their spouses in March.
I recall
and then
that too.
On August 5th, we're doing another free meal, but this one has a suicide intervention course as well. So you'll learn the words to say, how to physically approach someone in crisis. that's one of our annual sort of things we do.
Yeah,
Just a lot of
that's tremendous. I mean, that really is, because a lot of folks struggle with the, I mean, they're aware, right? They know that this is happening, but what do you do? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's a big topic to try to, to figure out in terms of how to take action, how to have impact on somebody that may be thinking about suicide, or folks that maybe have attempted it before. It's kind of scary to think about. And in the Marine Corps, we used to have, and I don't know what the stats are now because I've been out for a while, but motorcycle deaths were crazy back, probably the latter part of the 2000s.
Okay.
And everyone was struggling, how do we get our hands around this? Because these young guys and gals are going out buying these motorcycles that go 0 to 60 in like 2 or 3 seconds, and they have no background for it. So they developed a very rigorous training program, and it's graduated. And you can only, drive if you've done X through, X, Y, Z. They put a lot of thought and effort into it. Now it's a little easier to corral people, when they're in the military. It's hard
Oh,
to
absolutely.
corral what's inside someone's mind and not knowing, what's affecting them. And so all that's to say, it's something that you said I thought was actually so spot on, is, having a conversation and, getting them to talk, letting them know that they
Yeah.
can talk, and figuring all that out. And that's part of what we're trying to do here with Power of Our Story, right? Is stories are incredible because they tell you so much about the person and about, their background, about what they're doing now. And thank you for bringing that part up, because, there's a lot of first responders too that struggle with these issues. And the fact that you guys are seeing this and actively are pursuing remedies and avenues to help people along that line is just incredible. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, no, it's been incredible. There's a lot of things. I read somewhere that physical activity, being engaged in fitness goals, is a deterrent also. So there was
Right.
a lot that sort of played into the whole concept, like doing a hike. You're gonna have to train for it. And then when you do
Yeah.
this hike, you're miserable, but you're surrounded by people, and it's 22 miles as long. You have to talk to people. So the whole thing was sort of forcing you to talk, and it's been a real blessing. The post was very welcoming and open to hosting it. So it's been great.
Right. Yeah, I think Dr. Teresa Larson would have been all over what you just said about the
yeah.
physical aspect and, getting yourself moving, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks, I have no idea what the statistics are, but I would venture to say a lot of folks that, start to go down that route, a lot of different reasons, but, inactivity,
Absolutely.
being depressed, you do less, right? You're not eating well, you're probably not seeing people, you're not out and about, and all that starts that spiral that all these layers start to stack on. If you're
Dr.
able
Larson,
to,
she could say like the fancy part of this. I just know from Mean Girls, I think it was, that endorphins make you happy. No, that's Legally Blonde. Endorphins make you happy. And so you work out, you'll be fine. But Dr. Larson talked to me a lot about it. You just got to be out doing something. And
right.
yeah, I'm excited to do it this year. It'll be fun. But we do a lot of stuff. We also do like movie nights. We have a kayaking tour coming up on August 23rd, led by a Marine Corps captain. So we try to be out there in the community as much as possible.
Yeah. And obviously they saw, something that a lot of folks see in you, that, you have this bandwidth and you have this aura about you that folks want to talk to you. They see you as somebody that's a light, that someone who is comfortable in her own skin and talking. I mean, look how open you've been about anything we've talked about just in this, roughly 55 minutes of discussion. And you're so approachable. And as we were talking about before we hit the record on this, about, being authentic, that's absolutely who you are. That's one of the things that led me to want to start, having discussions with you and being connected with you, here on LinkedIn, and this has been overdue, for
It
me
has
as
been
well,
for a
wanting
year and
to talk with you beyond just the quick little, discussions that we'll have on DMs or whatever, or, on individual posts that we're commenting on.
Yeah,
And so now, just for time's sake, we're right at an hour.
I can.
And
Fine.
do you have a little more time?
Yeah, I don't care. It's fine. It's
Okay.
fine.
Well, cool. Well, then, now, is there anything else you want to talk about as the Legion? Anything else you want to share about that?
I will try to beat this as hard as I can. Beat this drum harder, if I don't know the colloquialism I'm looking for there. But anyways, everyone should join American Legion. I see all the time people trying to join or create new nonprofits. And it's because they don't understand that American Legion has this incredible network. It has the infrastructure, it has the financial support. And it's so much easier to change the world if you already have the infrastructure there. And then I constantly hear, well, they won't let me do things. Oh, it's the old guard. That's horse manure, because I'm a 30-year-old woman who is the commander of a post. And never once have they said, you can't do it because you're 30. Every single person should at least try American Legion. It's truly life-changing. The people are wonderful and they love to have you.
Aren't they connected with the fact that there's a GI Bill?
Yeah, the American Legion wrote it.
Yes.
They created the GI Bill. A lot of people don't know American Legion is an apolitical organization. And because of that, they have had such significant swing and impact when it comes to veterans initiatives. So they got the GI Bill done. They did the post 9/11 GI Bill. Most recently, a big initiative has been getting Afghani Terps to the United States.
Right.
Really incredible initiatives by the American Legion that it's hard for me to even comprehend. We have people at Capitol Hill every single day lobbying for veterans initiatives. Right now, North Carolina, our local posts are lobbying to have veteran retirements not taxed. Huge things that will change our lives. That is what American Legion fights for every day.
Right. Yeah, that's a big deal. And, a lot of folks just don't know what they don't know, right? All that's
Absolutely.
kind of transparent to them. And, they're used to seeing, older folks, but that's
Smoke-filled
fine because
bars.
we all get there at some point in our lives, hopefully. And I think we're at a point where even folks that are a little older, technology that we have today they've seen how it's enabled and made their lives better. Some things they could probably do without, but I think, again, kind of not to keep tooting your horn, but when it comes to folks like you, they see somebody that's very capable that can, connect on both ends. You obviously can connect with folks that are your age, but you absolutely have the ability to, have impact, communicate, and be effective with folks who are older. And that's such a dynamic. And, you bring that together. And that's probably why you're so successful in doing what you're doing there at the post. And it's really cool to see. And I would, with COVID, whatnot, I've got some, issues that I've kind of stayed a distance, without getting into my, medical background. So I've been very cautious with this whole COVID thing. So, we're starting to see an uptick here with the Delta variant, in the LA area. And, I hope we don't go back to crazy town with lockdown stuff again, but, it's starting to, the lockdown, turn is starting to kind of come back up again. But, once things normalize, I'm going to go out and, look to the American Legion here in my area and join and try to do more in the community in that regard too. And I'll say, hey, Liz sent me.
Yeah, please do. I can't wait to see you be the commander. You'll have to ask your post. Every post has a license plate. We'll have to trade license plates. I'll send you one from here. You send me one from there. So yeah,
Cool.
can't wait.
Can I ask a question on that too? Do you mind if I pop up real quick? quick?
No,
So
please.
this is amazing. Like what I'm hearing, I have all kinds of thoughts. And I'm also seeing in the chat, everybody else does too. So I have a feeling you're going to be bombarded. Like, hey, we need to talk. We've got ideas.
Oh, that's fine.
I feel like there's so much just even hearing you share about the American Legions. Like I'm seeing so many parallels of how maybe we could absolutely merge and support what's already happening there with the flavor or, the context of what we're all trying to do. How do we do that? Like the power of our story, that could be the meeting place of meeting in person is at the American Legions and getting these different generations to come together and helping each other with wisdom or support or whatever with all these different generations. There's so much even healing that can happen at the American Legions from what I'm hearing from you. And again, on these calls, there's so many different people with different angles and how they're trying to advocate. So how do we do this, Liz? Like, how do we bring our ideas to the American Legion?
I think, not to go back to the hike, but I think the hike is a good example. So it would have been really hard to have had a successful hike if I just said, hey, I'm Liz Hartman. I want to do a hike and raise money for veterans to have free dinners. But all of a sudden, when I tuck it under the umbrella of the American Legion, it has structure. It also had a membership that would share the word. It would network. It would do the marketing. It had the literal infrastructure to collect the funds. And it had the name. It had that trustworthiness, legitimacy. Thank you, Chris. Yes, legitimacy. That is what that's what it provided for us. So if you take your idea and you bring it to a post and say, hey, I've got this program I want to do, the post is probably going to support you. And then it just takes it to the next level. We're doing it all over this year. It's July, and I just had the first planning meeting today with the hike. The benefit of American Legion is it just has the infrastructure in place. Take your ideas to them, ask them, is this something your post would like to support? I can tell you the American Legion has 4 pillars. If it has to do with veterans, children, and youth, they're going to want to run with it. As long as it falls with those 2 pillars, they will take it and do everything they can to support you. Take your programs to them. Find the local post. They'll love it.
I'm on it. I'm already on it.
Love it. Call me.
I will. I have in fact, one of the big, I'll call you. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome. No, that was absolutely a great, segue into that, Sarah. And, anytime that we're having these conversations, please don't hesitate to hop right in and ask questions, because sometimes I might go down a rabbit hole because I, get interested in something, and, folks might not care, but thanks for, pulling us back into the lane there. That's very actionable stuff, and, it matters. So getting back to, let's close out if we can on the American Legion. And again, because of time, you were in New Bern, North Carolina, which is a beautiful place in North Carolina. I used to drive from Virginia Beach down to Camp Lejeune.
Oh, and you got to drive past us.
My wife was an engineer at the shipyard in Newport News, and I was going down to Lejeune for my MOS school. So weekends I'd go home, and I always loved driving through New Bern. It's just beautiful. So, I'm plugging New Bern for you. But anyhow, there's this military alliance that you're associated with in that area. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I am on the board of the New Bern Military Alliance. Scott, you can probably answer this. I can't. The New Bern Military Alliance works very, very, very closely with the command of Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point to enhance the lives of the Marines, bring economic initiatives to New Bern, primarily to Cherry Point. The Military Alliance lobbies for Cherry Point very heavily. So fun fact, 2020, probably the wrong year, but in the most recent DoD budget, last year's, that Devil Dog Gym on Cherry Point that has needed updated for the last 800 years finally got the funding. And that was a lot of the lobbying of newer military alliance. And then a lot of not low level, but a lot of smaller, more local initiatives. So one is every quarter we recognize or a sailor who's on aboard MCIS Cherry Point, who has gone above and beyond the call of duty serving the community. So we take them to the country club with their spouse and with their command so that they can, a lot of Marines have never been golfing, let alone to a country club. So we take them to the country club, give them a meal, present them with more awards and certificates than they could ever imagine. Just trying to recognize the Marines for what they do for us, and in the process, making their lives better. I know upcoming in October, we will be going to Cherry Point all day long, setting up in between the barracks and cooking 500 chickens. It's called the chicken pickin'. Didn't know those were a thing till I moved here. And we will do a chicken pickin'. We'll cook all these chickens. Moore's Barbecue will bring the fixins. And then we'll have a beer tent, and the Marines just come. It's free. They eat it till it's gone. It's kind of disgusting to watch. The chicken is normally gone within 30 minutes. It's truly
Right.
very sad. It's weird. It's gone. But the Marines
Yeah.
love it. That's sort of what the
Of
Newer Military Alliance does. We try to make their lives a little bit more fun, make sure they enjoy their time on Cherry Point, where we feed the volunteers for the Marine Corps air show, stuff like that. That's a very fun outlet. I really enjoy the
Yeah.
military alliance.
Yeah, you guys are smart. You know, anytime there's chow involved in Marines, that's kind of an
Oh,
easy thing. You throw a
Amen.
couple cans. Yeah, you throw a couple cans of loudmouth in there. You know, they're the
Yes.
beer. They're
And
all
they
about it.
will
Right?
freaking eat it.
Yeah, yeah. There's insane. I don't remember the name of the organization, but there are other organizations that are military focused in the San Diego area that do a lot of those similar things here with the Navy down, you know, in San Diego, and with the
Yeah.
Marine Corps. You know, there's the recruit depot is there in San Diego. Then you have 3rd Marine Air Wing up here in Miramar. It used to be Top Gun for the Navy, and then of course Camp Pendleton. So there's a lot of folks doing a lot of good things similar to that here too, and it's so
good to
needed
know they're
because
everywhere.
yeah, I mean you have to have that interface with the community, because there are, you know, there's so many times things go wrong, and it's easy for folks to, you know, do this, but when you're actively
Yep.
involved in the community and, you know, sharing stories again, and you're doing things to build that relationship and keep folks positive about the military that's in their backyard or front yard or whatever the term is. You have to have that. So now something else that you're doing, and I didn't see it on your. Are you still there, by the way? There you go. Can you hear me, Liz?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you guys there?
Yeah, your picture froze up on my end. So something you're doing there with the young professionals, am I seeing that
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I recall. Yeah.
I'm
So
on
what are
the
you doing
board
there?
of I'm on the Craven County Board of Craven County Young Professionals Board. That is mainly to engage the up and coming young professionals.
Yeah. Am I the only one that has a pause right now?
I think she's frozen. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she's going so
I can
fast.
hear
it
you.
can't
Can
keep
you
There
up.
she is.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started talking about Craven County, that you guys have a young professional, and then your screen froze. And it looks like it's probably that way again. Yeah, sorry about that. Well, I tell you what, when she comes back on, she can say what she wants to say. And then, Sarah, I'm on my phone again. I still haven't found the right laptop to replace mine. So when she gets back, let's let her, you know, chat about that. And then we'll go, if there are any questions, if folks that are still here have questions they want to ask her directly, then we'll go ahead and do that. Because I know we're about an hour and 15-ish minutes now.
Sounds good.
Can you
There
hear
she
me?
is.
Okay.
There
Yeah, hey,
we go,
Liz,
Liz.
yeah, it kind of, you know, froze and you got disconnected right when you were just starting to talk about, what you're doing with that group of young professionals. Well, hey, do we have any questions, by the way? Sarah, can you see?
Can you hear me now?
I think Lynette had her hand up a while ago. Lynette, are you there?
I'm on here, guys. I just have my camera off.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. Hey, Liz, what I was saying, we were seeing if Lynette, one of the gals that is, involved in what we do here with Power of Our Story, she's on a lot of the programs, she'll listen in and will comment, whatnot. I think that she had her hand up and had a question at some point. I don't know whether she's still on. I think Sarah was trying to determine that.
Oh, I'm still here.
She's on.
I am. I'm here.
Hey, how's it going, Lynette?
Hey, Liz.
Yeah,
it's so nice to meet you, and I'm really, really honored to watch your story. It's great. I am actually married to a veteran. He's a Marine Corps veteran, and
that's awesome.
It's great to get some perspective from actual veterans and mil spouses, and I just love what Sarah and Scott are doing. But I heard that you were over in, it was Israel, right?
Yeah.
I just had a question about how you bridged like the gap with language. I wondered if there was a language barrier when you were over there.
No. So a lot of Israelis speak English. I would say the bulk of them speak English. So I was able to use English to get around. But also a significant portion of those who live in Israel are native Arab speakers. So I was able to use Arabic, and then Hebrew and Arabic, they have a lot of overlap. They're not the same language by any means. They don't have the same lettering system, but there was a lot of overlap. So I was able to pick up a little Hebrew while there. I would say I typically used English though, and it was easy to get around.
That's awesome. That's great that you were able to do that. And I also I heard about the American Legion, that you are involved with that, and I'm very, very, very passionate about the veteran community because I'm close to Atlanta, and I'm always driving around Atlanta and seeing veterans holding up signs that they're homeless, and that's something that I want to change where I live, close to me and my community. Is that something that the Legion, I mean, I know they have different posts. How do they operate? Do they operate under like an umbrella? Is it each individual post? How does that work?
Yeah, so every city, well, not every city, but darn near every major city has an American Legion post. And you can just contact them and see what programs they have, because they might have one up and running with the area focus that you want to focus on. If they don't, you can join the post. So your husband can join as a Legion member, and then you can join auxiliary because you're a spouse, spouses, loved ones, family, friends, they can join as auxiliary. And that way you can get in and help that post do whatever it is you want to do. That's a great question.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for answering that for me. Thanks a lot. Yes, I'll definitely get involved.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks, Lynette. That was a great question. Now, who knew, right?
You don't know until you ask, Scott.
Hey, yes, absolutely. I asked a lot of questions when I was a kid. I think I wore my mom out. But hey, since you're back, if we can shift gears real quick and go back to the young professionals. A couple times we started, and then you had connection issues. What can you tell us about that?
Like toggling between 3 computers trying to make this work, guys. I am sorry. Okay, young professionals.
Yeah, good.
New Bern is a retirement community. So Young Professionals is just a group of us where we get together, do events for the community, and engage one another. Especially when we're in a transient community like New Bern with Cherry Point, we have people who are constantly coming in. They don't know how to get out there and meet people. The Young Professional group provides
there's something that doesn't want us to get this out there. It's funny. Yeah, well, while it's frozen again, hopefully I'm not talking over anybody, but
You're not. I can hear you.
okay. Yeah. So you were saying that it's a transient area, and if you can pick back up there.
Yes, sorry. I'm really sorry, guys.
No,
In
it's
New Bern,
it's
it's
all-
so
it's all good.
small. The internet goes out all the time here. It's a real pickle. And I would try to do it on my work computer, but because it's recorded, it won't let me show my face.
Right.
So anywho, it's a transient community. So Young Professionals gives people a place to meet other young professionals. A lot of times
Right.
that's hard if you join, if you're a new military spouse and you're
Yeah, this was exactly the point that I was hoping we get to, Liz. Again, my camera is frozen, so I don't know whether anyone
I
else
can hear you.
hear. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, so that's the point that I was wanted to drive to, is that mill spouse thing and that connection with the young professionals. That I'm sure that's a great place for those folks to meet and do that face-to-face connection thing that gives them a chance maybe at finding that job, opposed to just sending out
Absolutely.
their resumes all over the place, getting out and seeing people and talking to them and having those conversations that open the door. I'm sure that's a huge thing that that group is doing well.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm doing two computers now. There we go. Trying to piecemeal this together for you guys. So
Yeah, it's fine. Liz, if you don't have the camera going, that's fine. Audio is cool at this point. No worries.
okay, yeah. So that's one of the coolest parts about that organization is that, and sometimes when mill spouses move to the area, they move without a job, and they're like, well, where can I go to network to find a job? What if I have a good I want to sell to a group of people? Where can I go? Young professional groups or chamber of commerce groups at large are the places you want to go and get plugged into, because they're the other professionals. That's how you find that job, find that mentor, find your next client. So I highly recommend that no matter where you are, you get plugged into a chamber of commerce group or a young professionals group, which typically falls under chambers, or that's how ours does.
That's how you
Right,
find it? It's under chambers?
Yeah, go to find your chamber of commerce.
Okay.
Or that's how ours is, Sarah. Maybe that's not the same elsewhere, but I would start with the chamber of commerce for sure.
Okay,
Yeah, I
great.
think that
info.
makes sense. Yeah, I think that's probably how it is in most places too. That sounds right. Well, now, last thing here, as we're approaching like an hour and 20 plus minutes, I didn't want to close this out and not talk about the Browns. I mean, how can we
Oh
not
my
do-
God. We're going to the Super Bowl this year, and I'm not saying that sarcastically. If you could see my face, it is planned. I blocked out February to go to the Super Bowl, so I'm ready.
Nice. Yeah, that's it's interesting, this whole thing with the Browns. I was like, man, I like Elizabeth, but she's great. Look at this. She just hops right into the Browns thing here on LinkedIn. And I think that you're giving them good luck. I mean, I don't know what else to attribute it to other than, a good coach and bringing in the right players and all those dynamics. But I think that you're
very important
providing
parts.
something extra. You're helping them in some way.
Absolutely. It's definitely not me, because I've been Browns fan my whole life and they have always sucked. So it is absolutely the coach and the players. But it's been really fun. God, people get on LinkedIn a lot, going back to that word that is overused on being authentic. People try to
Right.
talk about what they think people want to hear about. Nobody wants to hear about the Browns, but I sure as poo want to talk about it. So that is what I leaned into. You can even see, like, if you see my analytics, nobody watches those Browns videos compared to the other ones. I don't get much engagement, but I'll keep posting them once the season starts.
No, yeah, I actually look forward to that. I think it's cool that that you bring that in as part of what you're doing on social media. And yeah, was not gonna say was. I'm a Texas Longhorns fan. When I was a kid, we lived in Colorado for a number of years. My dad, before my folks split up, my dad was in the Air Force. We were at the academy. He wasn't a student there, but he worked at the academy. And so watching football on Saturdays, in that area, Texas is kind of just below Colorado. So every Saturday you were watching the Longhorns play. It was the Southwest Conference, I think, back then. But so I grew up as a Longhorns fan, and they've always stayed with me. So, I always watched and loved when Oklahoma and Texas would play.
Oh, I bet you did.
Yeah, the quarterback that you have now, he's a good quarterback. He was frustrating to watch as a Texas fan, right? Because he had a lot of.
Oh, he was whooping you guys, yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of luck and skill during his time at Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he pissed off Ohio State fans pretty quickly. He's since apologized on that, but you gotta love Baker. I mean, he really has changed the team. There's a lot of lessons to learn from him alone. So I'm really glad he's the quarterback. And I can't wait to see what he does this year.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, you're a brave gal for doing that. And so at this point, Liz, I want to go ahead and wrap things up here on the recording side. Again, we have folks that may have some questions and want to ask you a few things here. So we'll go ahead and conclude the recording. And if you don't mind staying around just for a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
To answer any questions that folks may have. But again, I want to thank you for coming on here with Sarah and me today. We love having folks like you on. That's what this platform is all about. The what's next is about what is next in life when you are in the military and you've moved on, whether you spent 30 years in or 4 years in, whatever your experience was, there is life after service. And what's next is a question that we all ask in our lives, even, whether we're military folks or not. There's always that next phase in life. And how do we prepare for it? What are the things that we do? And sharing stories with folks like you who have found your way in multiple ways and in different points in your life. Having you sharing those stories with us, and as Sarah talked about, providing those nuggets, right? These are the things that we want folks to see and share, so that something that you say may spur something in the back of someone's mind. Oh, shoot, you know what? I didn't think about that. Or that's great information. They go out and they, bring that into what they do, and they become more successful. So thank you so much for your time, for your service as a Marine, working at the State Department, for what you do in New Bern now, affecting folks' financial future and getting folks to understand the importance of managing their finances. Because if we live long enough, we want to be able to enjoy life in our
Heck
later
yeah,
years.
you want to party at the end.
Absolutely. And, for how you're impacting the veterans in your community there, what you're doing with the American Legion, that is so incredible. You're helping young folks there that aren't even associated with the military. You were so involved, and God bless you, Forrest, and your young daughter. Thank you for being part of our show. And we'll catch you maybe down the road here in a number of months if you're willing to come back on and share any updates.
Yeah, I love this, Scott. This was well overdue, so now we got to do it like every week. This was wonderful, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Sarah, you had any last second comment you want to throw in?
No, I really appreciate hearing your story. It was very interesting, and I'm really excited about the American Legion idea. I'm going to hop on that. So again, just a lot of great nuggets. I also happen to have a son who is tomorrow going to Ranger School. He's up at Fort Lewis.
Oh, wow.
That is awesome.
He's newly married to his high school sweetheart also, who does not have a job.
Wonderful.
Just got up there to Washington, and now, my son is leaving to Fort Benning for 3 months or however. So just a lot of great morsels for me to also send on.
Yeah,
So
congratulations to
it.
them, and what a proud mom, Sarah.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate having you on. And Scott, always a great job. Always so prepared.
Well, thank you. And, you're always helping to keep me straight too. I appreciate that. Someone's got to, right? But no, you have a lot of, good insight to help share here. I appreciate whenever, you've got questions or, things that are absolutely value added in what we're doing here. And hey, before I forget real quick, next week, we're going to have Jamie JJ James on. She's going to kind of be instructional for the time we're going to have her on. She's going to talk about a lot of important things that folks that are transitioning need to know when they're making decisions on, the finance part when they leave the Marine Corps, with what kind of insurance and all that stuff. So we're going to get into that. So that'll be very informational for folks that are in the zone for transition. So that's cool. Then the week after that, Olivia Perez, she's a mil spouse. She's working with Higher Military. She's really done a lot social media wise on LinkedIn. So it's going to be the next 2 weeks, I think, are going to, if they can be as good as last week or 2 weeks ago with Dr. T and with Liz here, I think we're on a roll. So just kind of putting it out there for folks that, kind of keep people interested in what we're doing. Okay, well, Liz, thanks again. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording, and then we'll hang around for any questions folks may have.
I am going to have to leave, but I just because I have another call coming up. But Liz, again, what a pleasure to meet